Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to another edition of Issues of Today. Today is the 14th day of the month of December 2022 in the year of our Lord. We are back again with another conversation this afternoon, and today we are taking a look at very important subject matter. We are talking nutrition. My name is Ibrahim Angaman Al-Hassan. In our first segment, we will be talking about malnutrition among children in northern Ghana. What are the consequences? What are the effects? What can we do? And what can we enhance nutrition among children in northern Ghana? Our second perspective, our conversation, we'll also be taking a look at developments within the Tamale metropolitan area, and we'll be joined later at 3 p.m. by the Public Relations Officer of the Tamale Metropolitan Assembly. But this afternoon, we are starting right away, and we are talking about nutrition. So stay with us after this short break. Back to Issues of Today on ZAR TV live from Tamale, and of course my resource person to help us do this conversation this afternoon, Professor Paul. He is a public health nutritionist, and Madam Alice Ziaba, she is a dietitian and lecturer at University for Development Studies. They are helping us to do this conversation on this all important subject of malnutrition, or if you like it, nutrition. What are the consequences? What are the effects? What can we learn to improve upon nutrition in our jurisdiction? That's what we'll be having a conversation on this afternoon. Why not? So we are live on ZAR TV. Your comments and contributions are welcome. If you go to Facebook, you can search for ZAR TV Ghana. We are live on that platform. And of course, you can share with us your contributions or your opinions, or if you have any questions that you may want to seek clarifications from my guest this afternoon, you are welcome to do so. Yes, this afternoon. So let me first of all welcome my guest to the conversation this afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Great to have you.
Yeah, we're also excited to be here.
What nutrition is as a public health nutritionist? What nutrition is? Secondly, we can take a look at what malnutrition is. Then we can begin from there.
Okay, thank you very much. Permit me to say good afternoon to our dear viewers. Listen to this particular important discussion we are going to have. It's a very crucial and dicey topic or issue, and I think that it's supposed to be put on right on the agenda where you have put it. And today we are going to see how best we can deal with it. I am very passionate about nutrition. So if you ask me a question on nutrition, I'm sure I can take more than a whole day to talk about it. But suffice it to say that nutrition is exactly what we are. Because, you are made up of nutrients. And it's the Almighty God, or should I say, the Maker himself has made it in such a way that your body is fully of nutrients, and you must ensure that every now and then you are taking in nutrients to replenish whatever nutrients that you will be losing, or to gain nutrients so that you can develop and grow. So nutrients are just what we are, and the nutrients are obtained from our nutrition. That is a basic definition or basic explanation I can give, because every organism, not just human organism, but every organism, including viruses and bacteria, engage in nutrition, because they have to take in some nutrients to be able to build their bodies up, to be able to utilize for metabolic purposes, and to be able to thrive or to live. So nutrition is essentially what we do and what we are. It's just that it's a budding area of science, and the more we try to understand it, the better for us, because there are other areas or ramifications of nutrition that we don't really take seriously. We just take the aspect where it means you have to eat or take something into your system, the foods and so on, break them down to the nutrients, and then that's it. But there are so many other areas that we need to take cognizance of, so that we will be better off for whatever we are putting into our system. So in short, I would like to talk for a long time on this particular subject, but I think as we go along, you will all see how very important nutrition is.
So I'll flip over to the other side of malnutrition. If you define or explain nutrition to be what you have said, what would you say malnutrition is?
Yes. So anything other than, what I defined is nutrition. But there is what we call good nutrition. Good nutrition is when you have been able to do all that you have to do in terms of taking the nutrients, or acquiring and taking the nutrients, and being able to meet your body's requirements. Because your body requires these nutrients for the various reasons that I have outlined earlier on. To either procreate, to be active, to do a whole lot of things. Various activities, you need nutrients for them. Now, if you are able to meet those requirements, they will say you have good nutrition. But anything short of that, if you are not able to meet the requirement, something will happen. There will be a shortcoming in your system, and you will begin to see effects. Sometimes some of the effects are so overt that you can't hide. You can't hide it. Everybody will see that this person has a problem. Some of them too are covert. In other words, you may not see it outright. It may be somewhere hidden, but you can see that something is not quite right. And that is what malnutrition is all about. Unfortunately, we only identify malnutrition when it's at its very extreme, at the extreme end, severe. That's where we say malnutrition. So when you talk malnutrition to a lot of people, they are looking at the severe aspects of poor nutrition. And that is where they say but malnutrition it can be mild, it can be moderate, it can be severe. And it just means that good nutrition is not being adhered to, or is not being achieved. And that basically is what malnutrition is.
Let me come to Madam Alice. Madam Alice, the issue of nutrition and diet, are there differences? What is diet? What is nutrition? Prof has already explained to us what nutrition is, but dieting and diet.
So thank you very much for this opportunity, and it's a very sensitive issue for us, because our well-being and our life is based on what we eat and nutrition. So nutrition, we would say, is the bigger picture, and then diet will come under nutrition. So when people normally say they are dieting, it could be they are restricted or limited to a particular food that they are eating, and then they will say, oh, I'm on a diet. Or maybe they are not well and they have been asked to maybe increase or minimize a particular nutrient in the food, then they would say they are dieting. So the diet could be any food at all that you are eating, but when people put it in the context that they are dieting, it could be that they are on, let me put it in quotes, special food that has been prescribed. Sometimes may not be from a nutrition or dietetic aspect, but it might be that they have read online, and then that's what they have decided to do. But nutrition will be like the bigger picture, and then the diet will be a subset of it. But what we eat is what makes us alive, and there has been a lot of studies that have shown a link between what we eat and our health, and it starts right from the womb, when the woman is even planning to pick seed. But unfortunately, in our setting, most people don't plan to be pregnant. Before the woman gets to know that she is pregnant, maybe she has missed a period that could have been a month into the pregnancy. But before you even decide to be pregnant, what you are eating is critical, because certain nutrients, when they are missing, can harm the fetus development and can even lead to you losing that that unborn baby. So at that early age, and then certain things may not be formed well, that some may come with deformities, that by the time you are going through the pregnancy, you would give birth all right, but the child may be deformed. Some are physical that you can see, but there are others that are so much as in affecting their brain development that they may grow up and they are mentally retarded, and there are times we don't understand, but it may be linked to what the mother ate during her pregnancy, right from the conception throughout the pregnancy till when she has given birth. So it's very important. And the danger too is that sometimes the effects of the nutrition, if it's not corrected timely, especially before age 2 or up to 5 years, you can't do anything about it. So if the child is deformed because of that particular nutrient, the child is deformed for life. For instance, if the child, we call something stunting, if the child is not able to attain the right height for the age and is not corrected by age 2, the child may never attain the height prescribed for that child for the age, and will be short. Not necessarily because the family, they are short, they are having the gene for shortness, but because the child was not well nourished.
So it takes us to the very important point on this conversation, Prof. Nutrition in children, or malnutrition in children. What is it? We eat food, but does that constitute? We take our banku, we take our fufu, we take our wasawasa, we take our nabichinge, we take our gobe, and then all the yam, all the things but that does constitute good nutrition.
Yes, in fact, it's a very important issue, like you said, and taking it from the point of view that we are looking at the child, I think I'll even take it, like she rightly said, we take it even beyond the child. That is whilst the child, or while the child is not born, or unborn child in the womb, the fetus. I think that is where we should look at it. From there until I think about 5 years. It's very, very, in fact, we call it a critical window of opportunity. Very critical. If you miss anything nutritional and you are not able to correct it, in fact, some are correctable, some are not. So it's important to have that in mind. If you miss it, by the time the child is 5, for the rest of their life, they are going to carry this particular effect. It could be an effect that is stigmatizing, or an effect that is very, very physical, everybody will see, and so on. So most of the defects that adults are going about, bandying about and so on, started from all those periods. So malnutrition is actually something that went wrong either at the time that the woman was, pregnant with the child in the womb, because we were not taking certain nutrients that she should have been taking, or she took more overdose of certain nutrients, because the requirements are there, clearly there, But if you are not meeting the requirements, or you are taking beyond because you think one thing is so nice, so you need to take it and you overtake it, then you're going to have the effect on the fetus, and for that matter on the child when they are born and so on. If this is not corrected, like we said, it follows the child for the rest of their lives. And you may be having those defects and so on even out of adulthood, and it's very difficult for us to relate it back to that period. And most of the time, that is what, that is why nutritionists and dietitians can tell. And so when they see children with certain conditions, they're able to tell what happened probably in the earlier stages of life. I'll give you one typical example. If a baby or a child has bow legs, you know what I mean by bow legs, or K legs, knock knees, or whatever it is, definitely when a nutritionist sees such a child, they will be thinking of something related to one of the nutrients. Okay, a nutrient or perhaps a hormone or something that is also regulating that nutrient. And it tells you that something went wrong somewhere along the line in terms of their intake or in terms of their supply, something of that nature. And there are so many other things that we can tell when we see a child having that problem. One of it is also stunting, which she just said. A stunted child is something that we have taken for granted, because stunting is not something that we actually see physical manifestations or the effects so striking. Because when you are stunted, you are actually short for your age. And short for your age, nobody thinks about any malformation or malnutrition. All they think about is that your family are short. You just happen to have a gene that makes you short. But it may not necessarily be a gene that makes you short. If you have a gene that is for shortness, then your stunting is going to make you even shorter. By the time you come out, you are even so short because there are ranges of height. So you are going to be even very short. And the thing about stunting is that when a child is stunted, either by the time they are born, you can be stunted by the time you are born. We call it small for gestational age. When you are born, you are small, you are short. You are smallish and you are short. And such children will grow, by the time they get to 4 or 5 years, they are still short for their age. Now when you are at that age and there's no reversal of that situation, it will follow you for the rest of your life. It counts not just with stature, not just with physical stunting. So many aspects of your life will be stunted, even to the extent that it has been associated with financial stunting. Financially, you can be stunted. You cannot make money the way a normal person who is normal height and so will make. Because of your stunting, your mental development or psychomotor development will be stunted.
And these are all connected to nutrition?
They are all connected to nutrition, malnutrition at that early age. Either in the mother's womb or just during the first few years of life. So it's very critical. We should, when we talk about this, because it's related to food and people are consuming food, they think there's nothing they can do about it. After all, they are consuming food. But that is where nutrition comes in. Nutrition is not just about consuming food. I think she clearly spelled that out. But we all consume food. So if nutrition is just about consuming, then we are all doing nutrition and we don't have a problem. But that's why I say nutrition, diet, food consumption, and so they are different aspects we need to clearly understand. And we emphasize the nutrition, which is the science. And so I think by the time we leave here, our listeners and our viewers will understand clearly that nutrition is not just putting food into your mouth, but a whole lot of other things.
I'll ask that critical question. But Madam Alice, if a couple preparing to have a baby, you talk about the essence of nutrition in that period. How should it be like? What should be the plan?
So it's very important for the man and for the woman. So generally what you are eating is dependent on your general health. Are there certain diseases that run through the family? Because if both of them have a history of diabetes for their parents, that it even puts a higher risk that the woman may even, during her pregnancy, she may end up with diabetes. If they are having diabetes and the risk is very high, it's likely. If the lady's weight is high, that is overweight, or she's obese, she's having excess fat deposited in her body, then she has a higher risk that she can have diabetes in pregnancy. We call that gestational diabetes. It only happens during pregnancy, but after delivery it can resolve. But for a woman who even goes through that, you have a higher risk that in future you can have diabetes. Even for sperms, having a good quality of sperms for the man too, you need to watch what you are eating, your protein intake, and foods that will help to build your hormones, and then you being adequately hydrated. They are very important for the man. So once you intend to become pregnant, there could be certain checks, and if it's realized that you are deficient in any nutrient, we can start the correction even before you plan to impregnate your wife. And if the weight is in excess, our goal will be that the woman should lose weight to achieve a healthy weight that will be enough for the pregnancy. Because during pregnancy, we do not recommend weight loss for any pregnant woman, no matter how heavy you are or no matter how your weight is. It is not healthy for a pregnant woman to be losing weight, because that weight that you need is important for the development of the child you are having. So it's very important you do that. So if we don't correct the malnutrition, maybe even the woman might have been malnourished because of her exposure during her birth. So if you have a malnourished child and it's a female, the tendency that she can also end up in future having a malnourished child is high if nothing is done about it. So it's very important we work on this and find out if your blood sugars are not normal. You may not have diabetes, but it is not within the normal range. Then we need to control it before the woman conceives, and during the conception too, she will be monitored. And we use food to manage this. Now, if you don't manage it well, that can contribute to the child, the woman losing the pregnancy. So, in fact, there are some women that they may get pregnant, then they are losing the babies and they don't understand. It could be that the woman is having diabetes in the pregnancy. She's not even aware. She doesn't know how she should eat. And you know, in our setting, it's like when you are pregnant, we ask you to eat more. Eat for double, which is not so. We are talking about you eating healthy, your foods are varied, you are eating variety of food, so that all the different nutrients that your body needs for the development of the baby and the woman herself. Because everything, the blood would volume will increase, you need certain requirements for the baby and then the woman. So if she's not in good health, she can't even carry the pregnancy. And if the woman is critically ill, it can get to a point that they may have to decide whether they should remove the baby or what should they do. So we want to avoid
so
that.
It should be deliberate effort.
It should be deliberate. Pregnancy should not be accident. So as we plan to marry, we should plan when you want to have your child and start eating well now. Maintain a very good weight before.
So if you have an intention of conceiving.
Yes, if you have an intention of conceiving.
When you say start eating well,
yes.
Eating food and nutrition, good nutrition, what are the differences? How do we eat well to get the required nutrients that can boost somebody's ability to conceive, and the conception will not lead to a bad pregnancy? So
eating well is there are certain key nutrients that you need for the pregnancy, especially your folic acid. So if you are aware, most pregnant women would have been given folic acid that they should take them daily. But you can get this from our green vegetables. So if you were having adequate intake, but it's mandatory that during the pregnancy you should have to be taking your folic acid. And that one is to help prevent you having a child that is having this deformity. We call something spina bifida. That you have the closure of the spine to the closure of the spine is not. It needs critical nutrients, which folic acid is important, and that happens within like 3 weeks of the pregnancy, the conception. So if you are aware of this and you are eating well, you may not be deficient to warrant that. And sometimes too, we may not comply even with the medications that are given us that we should take. So if you were eating well, then you have built yourself up that during that stage, if you should even miss, you are not really at the deficiency level that should result in you having a challenge in the pregnancy. And then some early pregnancy too comes with a nausea. For some women, they may be vomiting, and some it can be so bad that their intake is even not possible. Anything that they are putting in their mouth, they are vomiting. So there are some women that in the hospital we have managed that they have to be putting on IV feeds, that they can't just put anything through their mouth. So if you have not built adequately before the pregnancy, what will happen? So if you were underweight, your weight is low for the time that you are in, then during that pregnancy that you are vomiting, as you are vomiting, you are losing water, you are losing, we call electrolytes or certain nutrients that your body needs for you to maintain your health, the woman and then the child. So if you are not able to eat, what happens within this period? That's why we are saying that build it to prevent that, so that during that, if it should happen that you are going through this, the shocks or the deficiencies will not be as high as those that really are already undernourished before the pregnancy.
Prof, let me come to you. Earlier you highlighted a bit on stunting, but what is stunting in children, and what is the effect on children?
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I think along the line I sort of defined it, but maybe just to re-echo it. When a child is born, right, or even, yeah, when a child is born, they have to have a certain height. Okay, for every child or cohort of a child or children, they are supposed to be around a certain height for every age, every height for every. As you grow, say, first 3 months, 6 months, and so on. We measure, those things are measured. In fact, when the child is born, they even measure those. There are some measurements that they take. That's how we're able to tell whether a child is small for their gestational age. When you are gestation, simply means when you are born. So when you are born, you're expected to be within a certain height. If you are smaller than that, you are already stunted. You are small for your gestational age. Now, as you grow, you are supposed to attain a certain height. Now, if your height is still below that, the height for that age, you remain stunted. Now, like I said, within the first 2-3 years, most children can catch up. If you give them the nutrients that they require, they will catch up. Okay? Now, stunting actually comes about because of some particular nutrients that are deficient in either the mother's diet or in the child's diet. Usually, for children, the environment in which they find themselves is likely to lead to the deficiency in those nutrients, and therefore, the probability of such children becoming stunted is very high for children who are born within certain environments. And I think, just to a little digression, stunting is very, very serious in the northern region. And let me tell you that we are the region, our children are the most stunted in the whole of Ghana. So it tells you a lot. It tells you a particular kind of food environment or particular kind of food that we are taking, which is not helping children to reach their potential, in terms of their height, the normal height for their age. And usually, as you're growing in height, you're also growing in weight. So height and weight, most of the time, should correspond. But very often, it's the height that precedes. And if you're not gaining height, you're also not gaining the corresponding weight. Until such a time that you are born and you are being given certain foods, you are not still being given the food that will require for you to gain your height. You are going to be given foods like what we have in our environment that will make you gain weight. So you increase your weight, you don't increase your height. Now the tendency for you to become overweight is born by the fact that your weight begins to increase and your height is not increasing. You understand? And we have a measurement we call body mass index. It is a measure of a ratio of weight and height. Weight in kilograms, height in meters squared. So if your height is not increasing, but your weight is increasing, it's a ratio. So your BMI, or which measures the kind of weight, overweight or obesity and so on, will go up. So if you see people who are growing big and they are not tall, and they are quite short, they are growing heavy and big and that kind of thing, they are easily going to be overweight and obese. Even in children, when a child becomes overweight, you have to be careful. And you can trace it all down to when they were born. Some of the issues I've just mentioned. It's very, very critical. We take it for, our culture, being overweight or obese is something that we admire. When you are born, a child is born is big and or whatever, and then or they are growing after they are born, after first 6 months, they are growing, very plumpy. Everybody is excited. Obolo, you give them names, and we're so excited.
But in reality, should we be excited?
No, that's what I'm saying. In reality, we shouldn't be excited. We could be excited because they are growing healthy in a way, but we should also have in mind that this is a recipe for disaster. Perhaps at the end of as we move ahead, if the child, you measure their their ratio of height and weight, and they are within the normal range, you can still have a child who is tall and who is heavy, who is big, okay, and that will not present a problem. But most of the time, like I say, children who are very heavy, who are big and all that, tend to be a little shorter than their age. Tend to be shorter than their age, and therefore you see them, they look like the tree people say, you know, like round. It's the beginning of obesity or overweight in adulthood and so on. And that is the beginning of what we call the non-chronic, non-communicable diseases. They are chronic diseases that we get, which is becoming very rife of late. But not that it's of late, but it's been there. It's just that now we are beginning to see it clearly that it's related to some of these things right from the time where you are in your mother's womb until the time that you have hypertension, we're talking of diabetes, you know, osteoporosis, a whole of kidney problems and so on. They are all eventually related. We call them non-communicable diseases, as opposed to the communicable diseases like malaria and so on. Those that you are communicable, that means you can communicate from one person to the other. Non-communicable diseases are not communicable. That's why they are called non-communicable. Like if I have hypertension and I'm having a child, it's not necessarily going to be transmitted from me to the child, right? But if the lifestyle, the sort of things I'm doing, the kind of food environment, the kind of activities I'm not engaging in and so on, is persistent in the environment, the child will also take up those things and eventually will get that same. So,
okay, Madam Alice, what percentage does poor nutrition contribute to children not walking early as they expect, or sitting or crawling as they expect? As the child is born, the months and the days commensurate with some development for the child, but sometimes some parents complain that they are sitting up faster, or they are not crawling, or they are not talking faster. Are they in any way connected to poor nutrition?
Yeah, they are connected, and it can be as much as even, it may be the main cause. It can be 100%. Some of the delayed development could be 100% nutrition. Few of them could be as a result of maybe a certain medication that maybe the woman might have taken, or certain problems during the pregnancy that are complicated, that are not related to nutrition. But over 50% will be nutrition dependent. One is that what we are eating is what will give us energy. What we are eating is what is going to cause growth. And mostly during infancy, like from birth to like 6 months, you can see that there is so much growth. By 3 months, you are getting to 6 months, the weight would have doubled or even tripled. Enough energy from the food. You are not having protein that is going to help with the development of new cells, as to cause that growth for you to see. There will be a lot of delays. For a child to be able to walk, you need your bones to be strong, to be able to support the weight as the child is having it. So if you are not having adequate intake of protein, calcium, and all these are coming from animal food sources. As we are eating our TZ, it's not just TZ. If you eat TZ alone, if you mash it, you are purely getting your carbohydrates that is giving you the energy. But the soup, what soup are you adding? Is it bra? So if you are adding bra mostly they will add a granite mix. So you can see that that soup is rich in your protein. Sometimes you even add fish and then other meats. Soup is having we call it nutrient dense. It's having so much nutrients that you can get just eating that soup. But take it with somebody is eating dry okra or even fresh okra. That one might not be as dense as the bra, or somebody is taking granite soup, or somebody is taking neri, the melon seeds, or the any of the nuts, agushi, any of the nuts. So these are coming apart from the protein they will add. They are also adding very good oils, and they are very important for the development. Our nuts can be rich in a lot of minerals, zinc. They can be rich in antioxidants that are helping to protect the child. So as you are growing, then the fruits and vegetables too are also adding vitamin C, you are getting your vitamin A from the colored ones, like our potatoes. You know, in Tamale, we have variety of potatoes. You cook them and then the inside is orange or is yellow. They are giving you vitamin A and all that. So as the child is developing, there is so much energy and protein that is required for the growth. And then other nutrients that we are getting from other food sources. So you are eating different variants to limit it, that we are not being conscious about it, and we just give money to the children. What are they going to buy? You give money to the child. You are not conscious about the food the child is going to eat. You may think that the child is going to buy maybe rice and stew or soup. But what if the child goes to go buy a drink? There are a lot of sweets, and you know children like sweets. So if you don't guard they are eating, for instance, you can cook the food from the house that the child is taking to the school. And these days, because of our work environment, we have to make money. So the children are even starting school at a tender age. Now, what is affecting us is the food environment. What environment is that child? What is being sent to the school with the child? Are you consciously cooking food, or you are using agushi, you are using dawa instead of the artificial spices just to enhance the taste, and you are limiting the sugars that you are giving them? So you can add the fruit, or you give the money to the child and specifically say that go and use this money to buy orange, go and buy banana, and you have to monitor. The child should be put in the care of somebody who is to monitor. Some mothers can even cook the food, but the children won't food. We need to monitor all this. So what environments do we have? The schools that are supporting that they have enough time for the children to eat? Some of the schools may prepare food for the children, but are they even consulting nutrition experts to tell them what to put in? Or it's just about we have to give food to their children. So today this is what we are, and things are costly, so they may go and buy what is just what tomatoes are they using, are they wholesome? But if you, the parent, is in control, you are able to tell what you are giving your child. It's not just about the cost, but you are selecting ingredients that are wholesome, because if the ingredients are rotten, the food may look nice or appear nice, but the nutrients are missing. Some of our vitamins are water soluble. We are overcooking them, we are throwing the water away, adding a lot of flavor boosters, okay, to enhance the taste. What is this child eating? So they can all contribute to that delayed development, even though some too may run in their families, that when you ask them, they will tell you that in this family, maybe the child gets to this age before the child is able to walk. But if we have assessed nutritionally to see that everything is fine, then there is not a problem. Okay. Some may have that few, but the nutrition plays a bigger role.
Yeah, let me just say something. Okay, you know, in terms of what we say runs in the family. If it runs, anything that runs in the family is likely related to nutrition over the years. Something that has happened over the years, and if you are found in the same environment, I think the same thing that the family has been doing, feeding them the same way, giving them the same kinds of food, is very likely to run over the years, and you think that it's a genetic thing. You see, the nutrients themselves are able to modulate the genes. So as your great-great-great-grandfathers were taking certain foods and so on, their genes are modulated. They are modulated, you know, they are altered. We call gene alterations. They happen with food, nutrients. And as they are altered, they bring forth their children. The children get the new genes, and then within the same environment, then they manifest those things. And in generations and generations, you see the same thing happening. So most of the things we call, what do you call it? Genetic, or shall we call genetic, are actually modulated by nutrients. Like one of the things clearly seen is obesity. If you are obese, most children or people who are overweight, it's very likely that they have had a transgenerational genetic modulation. So the obesity gene, obesogenic gene, we call it, has been handed down from generation to generations, because from the beginning they were into a certain diet, and that diet has changed the nature of the gene to make them, you know, it's is what we call a thrifty gene. When you are in a situation where you have to be thrifty in terms of food, there's famine and so on, your genes make your body very thrifty. So when you get food, they store. Instead of making you use it, it will store. And when you are storing food, when there is excessive intake or there is excess food, your body will store, and before you know, you are doing what? You are growing big. So there are people like that. When they get food and they are eating and overeating, you see them growing. She's talked about something I want to just emphasize here. In fact, for us as nutritionists, we don't want to prescribe foods for people. Like, you take this, don't take that, do this. And I think she has hammered it a number of times. Variety. Variety is very, very important.
Variety. What does that mean?
Variety means you should.
So, like, it should not be every day.
Every day
TZ.
Yes, our diets are monotonous. Every day, you can imagine. There are some houses, if they don't eat TZ in a particular day, it means food has not been served. And it's so I mean, I stayed somewhere in Kumasi. There was a house, every day you hear tum, tum.
Every day, maize or corn TZ. We can use millets for TZ. We can use sorghum for TZ. But sometimes the misconception of the society, we have this misconception that it's for poor. For instance, sorghum, most people may not like to consume it because maybe it was during the hunger era that people associate it to maybe your income status. But it's healthy. So if you are having the sorghum and all those are cereals that we can use them for TZ. So if you are even eating the TZ, it shouldn't only be corn. Millet is there. You can use millet for TZ. And you can even go to a step further by enhancing your TZ. You can add any of our legumes, flour, a little to it. But we will now complain that that is not how TZ is.
They want white. Apart from that, people want white TZ.
Yes. So the taste. We are used to our grandfathers. This is how they did it. But we can models. She's using different vegetables, but if you say banku in Ghana, the typical banku should be corn, and they will add cassava to it. But you can, any starchy food that you can mold, which you can also incorporate. We are saying that dietary diversity, you are choosing, even within the same food group, there are alternatives. The cereals, we should not be limited to one. And then the emphasis too is that they should be whole, not things that have been processed. You go to the mill, look at corn, how it's prepared. Our TZ that looks white. It has gone through a whole lot of processing that they have removed the bran from it. So you lose some of the vitamins that we say they are B vitamins that are supposed to. What it will it do to my body? Even with your blood sugar control, you can still eat like this, and without taking the medication, your sugar is better than if you had removed all the bran or the fiber from it.
Prof, you talked about how pervasive stunting is, and possibly poor nutrition children in northern Ghana. How does that affect our smartness level, our capacity to think, and be assertive? Is there any connection or correlation?
Okay, thank you very much. I think I've had the opportunity of talking about this in several places, several fora. This issue of stunting, especially in the northern region, and how it correlates with smartness levels, not just in children, even in our adult population. It's so glaring that, it's known that malnutrition, especially this stunting we're talking about in children, affects their cognitive development. It means their brain, their psychomotor, just how they even think is very critical. Now, talking about thinking, I can relate it not just to the stunting that I've talked about, but there are even nutrients that when you look carefully, there are nutrients that we don't have in our foods, especially in this part of the country, which are also related to the development of brain development. One is iodine. Iodine deficiency leads to poor brain development, and that is a problem also here. That's why we have salt iodization programs and so on. But if you go to here, you see most people don't use iodized salt. They think it's too expensive, so they go in for that. Another problem is iodine. Apart from stunting, there's also iodine deficiency. Then there's also iron deficiency. For that's why the women are giving iron, folic acid, and all those things, so that they can have enough iron. Because one of the deficiency of iron starts in the mother's womb. And when a child is born, it's not given the right kinds of foods and so on. Look, they will tell, I have been talking about this for a very long time. Iron, you can find iron in most of non-heme iron by making it available. Then you are not making any use of that iron. It's not going to be useful to the body. So you need to have a certain combination. That's why we talk of variety. Varying your diet simply means you are taking this, you are taking that. You are trying to take a number of different foods, and then their combination will help enhance each other, interaction, and so on and so forth. It's a whole day's topic if you want to talk about this. But for me, I always tell my listeners, it's good to have variety. Look, you don't have to be monotonous. That is our bane. That's our problem. If you go to most houses, you marry your wife, you buy you buy her a bag of corn. What do you expect her to be eating? Every day, is it not going to be corn? It's teased. Corn. If you buy a bag of rice, you think they'll be eating something else? It will be rice, you know. But if you are varied, there's beans, there is all those things she was mentioning earlier, the leaves and so on, and you are making sure that it's varied. It's varied. You don't eat the same thing over the same week. I mean, if you even eat it twice in a day, 2 days, and the third day you change, at least you are making an effort. Okay. That is what we are asking for. Otherwise, the nutrient deficiencies are just too many, and that is why we are having problems, challenges with smartness, because our brains are not developing the way they should develop. And I mean, you can see it in children. Look, I was in a school recently, and I was telling them why most of them are not doing well. I mean, can you believe that in a whole region or in a whole community, BEC, people get 0%, and you don't understand. With most diet, lack of nutrients, poor nutrition. I mean, but you see, that's why I say, unfortunately, we are not putting the science of nutrition where it should be, because all we think about is consumption. What are you saying? Are they not eating food? Are they not consuming food? Yes, they are consuming food, but are they consuming what will meet their requirements? That's the question. Go to the market right now. Yeah. Even beans, just take beans. We have different varieties of granules, different types of granules. Even the rice we are talking about, the local rice, there are different ones in the market. They're different. I mean, anything you take, there are different things. Even tomatoes, I know you know what I'm talking about. There are different types of tomatoes, a variety of tomatoes. Everything you can think of in the market. Even with the maize. You know, there's this maize that we're going to call Obatampa, or whatever they call it. It was more proteinaceous, in other words, higher in protein. But what happened was that the yield is not the Obatampa. You won't find it on the market because people think that it doesn't. I mean, the yield is not high enough. You plant an acre, you may get maybe about 4 bags, and then they do the other one, they get 4 bags. Yeah. Nobody will do 4 bags, and so naturally, we are not even health conscious when it comes to our agriculture. We are not looking at the health conscious. You know, apart from that, one thing that I need to mention here before is that the healthiness of our food, and that's what she's talking about, health, the diet, the food environment. It's very important. Our food needs to be of quality and of good, not just in terms of the quality of the nutrients and so on, but also in terms of the environment, the health environment, the chemicals and all those things that we introduce, the chemicals and other things and so on. That, in other words, it must be healthy in terms of all those things. But look at the way we even handle our foods.
Well, Prof, unfortunately, we are running out of time. So let me take your concluding comments from you in terms of nutrition, of course, all of us watching you this afternoon.
All right, thanks very much again. Once again, I think we cannot overemphasize the importance of nutrition to our children. We can't overemphasize. That is the beginning of everything. The children are our source of everything in terms of potential, in terms of education. Will come out of the education. Look at results that children are producing, and we don't even link it to our nutrition. Your children comes out with WASI and they are not doing well. you can see obviously they are not the F's and the E's and whatnot. They are not doing so well. They not go to university. The girl looks very healthy and so on, but you've forgotten the nutrition that the person had somewhere along the line is very contributory. We're not saying that is very important, because lack of good nutrition would affect all other aspects, the cognitive development, the way they even, their behavioral, whatever, interactions in the environment and so on. All those things are determined by nutrition. So we expect that people will get to know that it's important to consider the nutritional, inputs to children, what you are giving them, how you are giving them, where you are giving them, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
All these things are critical.
All right. Madam Letitia.
Yeah, I think parents should be intentional about what their children are eating, where they are eating. So right from home before they leave to school, I would even encourage, because when they get to school, they are rushing, they are late. Some even have extra classes before they start their main school schedule. So if you can get them to have breakfast, which is very important, especially for children, it's linked to very good performance for children, because it has a lot of effects on their brain. They are more alert if they are eating. So you may not just plan. Mothers should plan. You leftover food, you can warm it up. Let them eat before you send them to the school. And you can still pack lunch for them. Whereby you may not have these, then make sure that the school, maybe their siblings, older brothers and sisters are there to help, especially the younger ones, to buy fruits as snacks instead of going for drinks and all their toffees here and there. And then the food should be safe.
Okay.
Their hand washing is very important, and then keep the food warm. Invest in good flags for the children, because you want to encourage them to eat, and really supervise. If you are supervising, you can tell whether your child is eating or who is eating that food or where the child is eating. Once we create that environment as parents, and also with the school, they should be conscious about what is sold in during their break time. What are the children buying?
The PTs,
what is being sold there? We can start by, these are things that you don't need government to come in. We should be intentional about it. Parents can call. Some of the schools, they don't allow people, then they should have there. But we can have fruit stands, smoothies and all the fresh fruits that are there for the children to eat, and that will contribute to their health and their well-being. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, time is not our friend. And this is where we'll draw the curtains on this segment of our conversation this afternoon. Coming, we'll get to meet you some other time. But in the meantime, let's pause for a breather. We are back in a few minutes. Don't move away.
Sapantang tanga kasabalgo mirboba. Parampirgo danchi pivo kanambos madang drum. Jiparagaran gam yi zahara beruko yaran kanda sa TV. Da gidan bolan ne kurlam saha. Jishel dan ya biago tarshiya. In chen shir biago ya aka. Am filna da cin bilan basarlam. Ni kurlam na kayana taada.
Nda tam maka zan pamla titinga. Doma da garsiya zo kanin karbiyane. Bodwar la sal ne karkatinga na yi bale. Abu nan jargo amna yanda kutobe. Ni rumun nan jargo mun kilo yanda ba. Nan jargo mun kilo yanda ba. Malla soni chen fodda sulla. Ba ku fodda sulla chen no for yala pa. Na cin bil ngon gubo na cin bil gu fen yala. Ngon bulshiyo na cin bilam dansa. Ajiya na cin bilam dansa malan ya bale. Aku paga ambon na chan she. Na cin bil na mal saa biya ku pune. No tutole no korla. Ama nun kulungun lan ka saa no lan le na cin bila. So biya ne ko chene injiri kopchela ka nyoko nye non korla. Ama bibul jaru balir non ko jaru. Tiyela non kura ban mal da saban gami zara. Ka tang na karnyela tang ma dan talgan kabe. Ka tang na karnyela nan nintam yengela tisokan. Ama nun ko so biya ne kane benki. Obo chima pa borden sam tiya ko.
Ba manen kurlam sa alhar da kam za television. Kurga ko zan chan kurgani. Asba antiyan fadan kamale. Tanan bon fanga antene kurlam kan me da po antene kura. Ngosin shi wakare pa na za TV zo yurbono onabo tego. Mane nye ko la ka shima para yurbono Tahiru Abdul Jalil Prince.
Uni zablin mon lari. Alzan kushin tunga. Jembia kulambe. Mani apyari kumayuli.
Jurui yingman jui de lady yelmangle. yalwumsira din bin ya kaga ba mun ne sun bota bihago
aku kana na wula akiyar na wula ta fati wallahi ngel akara na wula na kacha na wula
oi do e to alviere
dinin jakar pi la folango nir bor kaga ba mun ne sun tir yalwumsira din bi bihago kapi will bolle zakutu.
I don't lobby.
That's true.
Mambran DJ yila since 2018. So Mambran nang konge kan.
The number
konge. Strong.
konge.
Zakutu program pargishal din nan da za radio la. Da layan nan la za TV. Ala badal kam
jun krogani kala labne ala dale asba kurgupia.
Okay.
Kaman kuma kani.
Umurcho. Yeah.
You
see, nisal no tam peshanya la kamane. Timini nisal mborna. Amanda won chirna.
Okay. Nyamsati za kutu. Domidinya la kutu. Okutu. Nkutu. Tiza. Enwilum Buni Muhammad Abdul Rashid Kawaston. Anto Bolma Bra Rashid. Bra Rashid.
Welcome back. You are still live on ZAT TV, and of course our conversation is issues of today. My name is Ibrahim Angaman Al Hassan, sitting in for your usual host Jonas Piaurubi, who is away for some other duties. And in our second segment, we will be taking a look at developments within the Tamale metropolitan area. And with us in the studio is Mr. Amadou Mustafa Zakari. He is the Public Relations Officer, if you like it, Public Affairs Director of the Tamale Metropolitan Assembly, joining us this afternoon for this conversation. We are live on Facebook, ZAT TV Ghana. If you have any concerns, if time is permitted, maybe we'll give you the opportunity to join us via phone to ask some very important, very pertinent questions concerning the Tamale Metropolis, and of course, if you want to know the Greater Tamale area. So that's the conversation we'll be having in the next couple of minutes until about 3 p.m. where we'll make way for the next program. So you're welcome back. Let me welcome Mr. Amadou Mustafa to our conversation this afternoon. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Great to have you.
Thanks so much for having me today.
How's the mayor doing?
Yeah, he's doing so well. Yeah.
How would you describe the year 2022 in the affairs of the assembly?
Thank you very much. Once again, good to have me here in your studio. And I'd like to use the platform to thank management for your cooperation with the Assembly all this while. And also use the opportunity to thank your cherished viewers for always keeping their dial on ZAT TV. You are very, very informative and educative. So you have a lot of viewers, you have a lot of listeners out there. So I'd like to thank you for that. So coming to your question about how the year has been, is I think, to say the least, it's been so challenging. You confronted with so many development issues that require your attention, some really competing for your needs against the sad reality of budget constraints and all that. Yeah, so at one point it almost as if you are insensitive, so to speak, to the plight of the supposed beneficiaries of your efforts. So we need platforms like this to reach out to our publics, to reach out to the citizenry, giving them assurance of our resolve to really meet their development needs. In fact, we are obliged to do so by the fact that we are a public institution with the mandate to deliver to meet the development needs of the people we serve. So sometimes we have no excuse that certain things are not happening. But the reality also is that, yeah, you have the good plans sitting in there, but that is also contingent on availability of resources, especially in times of competing needs. Yeah, so that's just by way of introduction. So summarily, the year has been quite challenging, but there have been some successes. To talk about stability in the area, which is key in development. Yeah, and a lot of positive things are also springing up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, for example, let's begin with the successes. What would you say are outstanding in terms of the performance of the Tamale Metropolitan Assembly in the last couple of months? We are in December now.
Yeah, we have consistently mentioned, and in fact, we are proud to say that the metropolis has been relatively peaceful, and that for me is worth commending. If you are abreast with developments in the past, you will appreciate the peace that we are enjoying now. If you have no history of how it had been in recent past, you may not be able to appreciate fully, given that they are very best. We also want to thank His Royal Majesty, the Overlord of Dagbon, and the rest of his subjects for cooperating with us in maintaining the peace we're talking about. And more importantly also the general public for how far they have cooperated with us and then the security agencies in ensuring that we stop at nothing to deliver this positive outcome for their benefit. So that's about security. Yeah, so we're also talking about, sometimes it is good to put the word development in its right perspective, just so you're able to make meaning for the benefit of your listeners and viewers. You know, the term development itself is often subjectively used because it's full of relativities and all that. How you see development may not necessarily be how someone else sees development. Your various backgrounds may influence your definitions of development. A farmer, for example, will understand development to mean availability of farm input or ready markets for farm produce and all that. So if anything like that is not happening for him, there's no development. He harvests his produce, he has no place to send it to sell. That could be a challenge. A teacher talking to you may understand development to mean maybe classroom infrastructure or teaching learning materials, among others. The healthcare professional may want to see ultra-modern laboratory facilities, for example, among other healthcare facilities. So it depends really on the background of the individual. But generally speaking, all these areas that I've spoken about, at least we have touched on them to ensure that life moves on, even in the midst of these challenges globally that we are confronted with. Yeah, so if you are in town and you are observing, you will notice that most of our town roads have been asphalted. And that is very significant. At least it has value to the urban status of Tamale. That is worth commending. And that didn't happen accidentally. A lot of effort went in, a lot of lobbying, a lot of advocacy for that to happen.
You just mentioned road projects, and one of the monumental projects that we have experienced in the metropolis is the Tamale interchange.
Yeah, very well.
Yes. Is work completed on it? Is it finished?
Not really.
Okay. So
not really.
What is the status now?
Yeah, we touch with the engineers and then the consultants. A lot more accessories are expected in the coming year. You know, we're in December very soon. will be ending the year, and we hope that the first half of next year, the contractor will be back to site to complete. We're talking about establishing some lorry parks and then some space also designed to cater for motorbikes, among other things. And we're also looking at modifying the other end of the interchange towards Dakwema Palace.
Okay.
To make it more like a recreational center, kind of, with a lot of designs to be done. That work is still
yet to be done.
Yet to be done, with tree plantations, among other aesthetic plans to beautify it, so that in the event anybody has any occasion with sizable number, that is suitable for such occasions and all that. Apart from the aesthetic value of that facility in the heart of a town like that, among other areas. So, so you will notice that we keep consolidating some of the portions of the facility, the edifice there. It is for such purposes. Because if you allow that open, people think it's been underutilized and they will want to occupy. Yeah, there wouldn't have been any problem allowing occupancy, that provided the understanding of we occupying there temporarily is there. But oftentimes, you may not even know how they get their way there. But if eventually assembly comes out to put it to use, I mean the very purpose for which it was earmarked there, you often see them running to media houses like yours, the palaces, the imams and all that, literally inciting the public against the duty bearer, in this case the assembly. That is not really a pleasant situation if we have what it takes to avoid that in the first place.
We'll come to that, but let's look at the issue of the car parks or motorbike parks. Where specifically is the assembly looking at to convert those places to become parks for motorbike?
The formerly of taxi rank.
Okay.
That's stretched there. You'll notice there's a significant portion there. And you also notice that we've used some zinc and other material to hold a particular stretch also, among other portions of the market. Some of the portions that we're talking about. Yeah, so
that place would be specifically for what? For the vehicles?
Vehicle, and it's quite a sizable piece of land there. So portion will be, you see, the point is that we are discouraging public people, people parking on the shoulder of the roads and all that. Some can just come park their car for a whole day. Somebody may want to buy something in the market, will park it there, maybe expecting to take the next 30 or 1 hour kind of, and then it all causes a lot of problems for other road users. We're trying to avoid that. But if you're saying they shouldn't do this, what are the alternatives? What enabling environment are you creating for that to happen? Because it's not our wish to, if you like, inconvenience the public. But we're doing it for the good of the people. Safety is very important. The law speaks against that. You should not be doing the selling, hawking activities around such places. That is already against the law. But sometimes they are overlooked. Listening to them, they will just think that, that's my life and that's my source of livelihood too. So allow me, if you say I shouldn't sit there, it's as though you are saying me and my family should starve to death, kind of. But you see, you wouldn't hear the consequences until something fatal happens. And then you will find people putting the blame squarely on the assembly. So if we have what it takes to avoid it in the first place, we may incur the wrath of the public, but it's worthwhile.
So beyond the taxi rank, is the assembly considering any part under the bridge for the purposes of car park and motorbike parking slots? or lot for the usage of people who just come into town to conduct businesses and go back?
Not really. That edifice per se is not meant for that.
Okay.
Those of us who have traveled to other cities and towns where such edifice or facilities exist, you hardly find what is happening now here. So going forward, we are in talks with some companies in development to consider helping us with that kind of sharp stones that were planted at Kwame Nkrumah interchange.
Interchange, okay.
Yeah, making it unattractive to people who may want to sit there and all that. Apart from the fact that it decorates kind of the place, it also makes it unattractive to people who want to come and rest there and other things. We're trying to do all those things in the interest of the public.
Because quite recently people are using it for all manner of purposes.
Yes.
Some are using it at loading point for their vehicles.
Yeah.
To Accra, Kumasi and other places.
Yeah.
Others use it for as a mosque. Others also just come and park their vehicles
Yeah.
there. But all these I've mentioned,
Yeah.
are they concerns to the assembly?
Yeah, there are serious concerns. There are serious concerns to the extent that assembly is first looking for alternatives. You see, the town admittedly is congested. And you will understand, 30 years ago, we are young, but the elders will tell you, 30 years back, the place was not like this. The size of the population, urbanization and its attendant issues and all that are confronting us now. And so we cannot continue doing the same thing and expect different results. We have to think outside the box. It is not possible to increase the space around the central business district. It's not possible to do that. That is helping to decongest the place. For example, if we're able to create a market to deal with just foods, second-hand clothing and all that, if you get up wanting to buy any of such stuff, you know where to go. Now, fruits and vegetables, if you want to buy that, you should buy a cattle market. Until that establishment, you notice it was all increasing to the pressures we have around the central business. But now, anybody interested in a cow knows where to go find one. And so you will find people moving in different directions to access market and all that. That, for me, go. So raise market at Babshe, so that it should be possible for those small-scale yam dealers around Ababu market area to relocate to Babshe, to give Babshe Pakpando yam market. And that is a collaboration between the indigenous people and then our brothers, the Konkombes.
Okay.
To establish the yam market there, so that it should be possible for our Burkinabe neighbors to always come here and buy instead of going through to Bunu regions and all that. So that's what we're doing, and we have gone far with that arrangement.
But that's one of the biggest projects that is hanging like an albatross on the neck of the assembly, the Toile multi-purpose bus terminal.
Yeah.
It's been abandoned for years.
Yeah.
Has the assembly got any plans
it
in the short and medium term to revive that particular agenda?
It may not be entirely right to say it's been abandoned. And we have always had our plans for our facility. And until that plan is put to work or whatever, you probably would not understand why some facility. As we speak, discussions are far advanced for that facility to be put to use. Before then, we're looking at getting strategic partners to add value to that facility to make it a lot more attractive to business in terms of the example of Linda Door or Jofel or whatever you call it on the Accra.
Or Kintampo Falls.
Exactly. So no, we're trying to look at like a rest stop so that long distance vehicles can come, rest there. Those of them who are Muslims can say their prayers there, eat, relax, and then continue their journey and all that. So if you don't do that and only leave just the facility as it might not attract the kind of attention we're talking about.
But I want to get this understanding. Is it that we are abandoning the original idea of making it a bus terminal? Or
it's still the bus terminal, but with this added advantage I'm talking about, to add value to it, so that at least it looks very, because the plan was that if we make it operational, all those other stations in town, the long distance buses and others should relocate to the place there to make it busy. And that was also the way to get market for yellow services, taxi services and others. Some of them may be reluctant to relocate there. In the meantime, we are sending industrial area people. You know, it's a community on its own. And they are moving to that area. They are not really occupying the market. The market space is big. The land there, the size is so huge. So we are dedicating some portions of that particular area for occupying the industrial area operatives.
But are there timelines with that? When are they moving? When are they relocating?
That's why I said we are far advanced with arrangements. Yes, the mayor had been to the community, engaged the chiefs and elders of the community, getting their buy-in. I mean, literally explaining to them the rationale behind that movement, the potentials it holds in creating businesses, and even impacting lives of the local people there, and even value addition of our land in those areas. You know, sometimes elsewhere, if you want to add value to land, you may want to cite a certain huge public facility, and that can attract developers to that area, and eventually your people will benefit. I'll give you the example of UDS Dungu. Until the establishment of that university there, how much would be reluctant to accept it? Because you'll be asking yourself there that when at all will Tamale develop to that level. But with the establishment of that institution, I tell you, it's hard to come by a parcel of land for whatever purposes. So that's the thinking. So we should be forward-looking.
So we would see, would this happen in 2023 because we are ending?
Even the day for yesterday,
okay,
the leadership of the industrial area, they were at the assembly to find on that. So I may not be able to give very definite timelines to that, but all that I can say, at least you get a picture of how far we have come with that arrangement. To the extent we have engaged the traditional rulers, we have engaged the committee members, we have engaged all that need to be engaged, including the occupants themselves. And they have demonstrated interest, they have demonstrated commitment. What remains our motivation is the fact that it's going to open a lot more livelihood opportunities for the people in that area.
Should the occupants of the now light industrial area move away to relocate to the toll area that you're talking about?
Yeah.
Has the assembly any plans for?
So we really don't have control over what happens.
Okay.
The only thing is, if you are developing any piece of land, we have our concerns. As much as it's not really blocking access, people movement, as long as it's not really going to affect maybe underground cables within that terrain, as long as it's not going to hamper any public facility and all that, including building on waterways and all that, or literally having the potential to block drains and all that, you are good to go.
Let's come back to town, and the Jubilee Park, and there's a piece plot of land just in front of the Jubilee Park, opposite the passport office.
Yeah.
What is the intention? We were told earlier that the assembly wanted to use it for car park some years back. What is the new intention for that plot of land just in front of the Jubilee Park?
In fact, it's currently being utilized. Maybe you will be right to say it's underutilized. Otherwise, it's being utilized.
I've seen usually around 5 facilities, but in the afternoon.
You see, there's a history to it.
Okay.
I'm not sure we may have that ample time to get to the bottom of it, but summarily, we entered into a PPP arrangement with a private person to develop that parking lot. There are documents to that effect. So Assembly does not entirely own the place. The PPP kind of arrangement that is in there makes it this way. So that private person is operating it, and until the terms are really met, I'm not too sure the number of years, but it should not be less than 10 years within which Assembly can take back the facility fully. Until then, it is in the hands of the private player. And so you occasionally find cargoes coming to park there. And they don't really park it for free. There's a fee they pay. And that private person has an agent responsible. So if you go there, you will notice their presence. But it's as though nobody cares what's going on. There's management in place. There's this guy called Habibu. Is it Habibu Dagbana? They call the name, but it's Habib. He's one of the private entities Assembly is partnering in our revenue mobilization efforts. So my understanding is that he is running the place for and on behalf of the private player.
Okay.
But there are documents to that. In fact, we have a dedicated file for all our PPP arrangements, and that includes the facility you are talking about. Yeah.
So now let's talk about the yellow drivers, the tricycle operators. They've been complaining many times that they don't have a place to operate peacefully and conveniently. But the Assembly tax them. The Assembly take a lot of revenue from them. Is there any plans for them within the immediate Tamale Central Business District to operate?
Yeah, I admire your choice of words in describing the situation. You see, sometimes some of these things come. We are not surprised that some of these misgivings expressed, so to speak. Sometimes some of them do that to win public sympathy. Otherwise, the reality is that they have their own leadership, and Assembly recognizes that leadership. And at regular intervals, in fact, consistently, we have been engaging with their leadership, trying to discuss issues affecting their operations, and then trying to share ideas in terms of improving, efforts to improve the situation or system for them. So you cannot say that IK photo area used to be hell anytime you were assessing that stretch of road, especially in the evening, around 3, 4 going. It used to be hell. Yellow will invade the whole place. Access, nothing. So now if you go, there's a different story altogether. So I'm not sure some people are interested in those positive outcomes. Something had gone into it, some effort had been. So they have been given a dedicated place they marked the place so well for them to operate. If you enter taxi rank, as we speak, you have quite a large space for occupancy by what's the name, Access Bank towards Bank of Ghana. You'll notice that previously they used to take more than half of the route, just parking there and doing their business. You don't observe that these days. So those of them who really don't want to be members of the association, some of them are the ones having problems with our operation because our task force personnel are working. And so if they encounter people like that, definitely they will deal with them. So dealing with them means they may be fined, they may be other on the spot kind of punishment and all that. And so for them, they may want to take it this way. Otherwise, we having one of the best working relationship with the yellow operators.
Let's talk about sanity. It's becoming a major challenge in the metropolis.
Yeah.
What has been the situation? Is the Assembly able to pick the communal containers that you have collaborated with Zoom Lion Ghana Limited, dotted across some communities in the metropolis?
Yeah, that's also an area that requires serious attention. It's been so for only God knows how long now. And admittedly, it's not peculiar to Tamale Metropolis, sanitation generally, even across the world, to the extent that a day is set aside for the commemoration of cleanup day and all that. It's an admission of the fact that globally, sanitation remains a development issue. So we all have our strategies of dealing with our respective sanitation situation. We will not pretend to say that all is well with us here. We have made steady progress in improving the face of sanitation in Tamale, despite obvious challenges we are confronted with. We generate a lot. The last time I checked, the data suggests that we generate up to 500 metric tons or so of waste daily. Daily. And we're able to contain as much as 350. So more or less you have about 150 being the nuisance you are talking about. So is that not an effort? So if you generate about 500, then you're able to contain, safe containment and disposal up to about 350. That is still huge. We would like to do more. In fact, we would like to cover all. But that also depends on resource and our prioritization efforts and all that. So some of the areas, the story about the sanitation is that we have some places that are approved dump sites, then others are unapproved dump sites. But our officers on routine monitoring are able to tell us the ones that are emerging as part of the unapproved dump sites. So for those ones, you may not really have the communal waste containers to deal with that. But we have data on those things. So pending resource availability, we will earmark some containers to cover. Then the other ones with, the approved dump sites. Containment is not really the challenge, but evacuation is a challenge.
And what is the challenge there?
Yeah,
is it related to financial?
Definitely, it takes a lot of money to do so. In the course of the year, we roll out an evacuation plan targeting critical dump sites. Critical as in the quantum of waste gathered there and how long it's been there. It may be some of the dump sites have been lying there unattended to for the past 9 or more years. Your personnel have visited some of the places there, and they have listened to some committee members speaking to the history of those dam sites. And so majority of those sites have been cleared by the assembly. And we also haven't planned to continue. In fact, we're doing it strategically in phases. So we'll do what we call targeted or limited evacuation. So you can target some small number to making progress. Yeah, it may take quite some time to do that, but we are on course. So we just appealing to the, but you see, we piloted a certain approach, and we would like to encourage committee members to show interest in that pay as you dump policy. It's actually a community-led initiative, but Assembly comes in as a facilitator, creating the enabling environment for such discussions and engagements to happen. Eventually, they put together a management team to lead the process, and then they sanction that if you are coming to dispose your waste there, there's a fee you pay, a token, so to speak. And that also depends on the quantum you are disposing, as low as 50 pesos and as high as perhaps it goes to the community leaders so chosen to manage the site. And the essence of it is to ensure availability of funds at all material time to fuel our vehicles to evacuate the waste to the disposal site. And so for those places with this arrangement, you will not notice any container that is left unattended. So going forward, that's the discussion we have triggered, and we are appealing to the committee members to show interest in the assembly members, the chiefs, the other opinion leaders in all those areas should be interested in that. That looks more sustainable. Of just evacuating, then nothing dramatic happens afterwards. Before you realize the waste is back to it. And we just indicated that we are constrained with resource availability against the obvious competing needs of the people. So if we have to spend huge all in evacuating waste at the expense of other very useful development needs, I'm not sure they will look at us as serious people.
Because of time constraint, let's look at one important thing in that affects the metropolis, security. And I want to link that to how dark the streets of Tamale are. People are complaining, and some people are petitioning the assembly for some action to be done. But what really is the problem that the streets of Tamale...
We have always expected questions like this. And that also tells us that it's really a priority need of the people. The story around that is that are underground ones, and they have outlived their usefulness, and they've been there over, I think, for more than a decade. Meanwhile, we're told by the experts that the lifespan of those cables was just 10 years or so. And so it has started giving us problems. Initially, our personnel on their routine monitoring could identify some few problems with it, and the ones that they could really fix immediately, they will do and then restore the light. But others will really have to take a lot more expertise and other resources to do. So generally, in fact, it's spent. We actually expended a lot on this, but we're really not getting to the bottom. So a time came, we had these security issues that you just talked about, because the criminals will always want to take undue advantage of certain situations and makes it conducive for such nefarious activities to go on. So it has become, in fact, management, Assembly, Tamale Metro Assembly made it a security issue, and that really won the attention of our energy ministry. So they directed VRA to conduct an audit and then give them report on the real issue, so that they deal with it once and for all. And that has since been done. I cannot really tell the state or its status, the Ministry of Energy now, but this that is really receiving much attention. Nonetheless, those minor challenges, the ones that our personnel could fix and allow things to work there, you will notice some significant improvement. The lighting compared to recent past, you notice that is better, and that is how we want to manage it, hoping that in the first quarter of next year something evident will be on the ground.
Is the Assembly cash strapped? Is the Assembly struggling to raise revenue?
Yeah, that is so for most assemblies. Here again, it's not a peculiar situation to us. Obligation, honoring our tax obligation has not been our core values as a people, and I do not really blame them. Our orientation growing up has not been tailored to be that patriotic in honoring our. So you literally have to bring pressure to bear on potential taxpayers before donation and all that. So we are still rolling out a lot more sensitization packages to continue to appeal to the conscience of our people. They need to honor their tax obligation, because it's only then we will be morally right to bring pressure to bear on the duty bearer to meet our. As a metropolis, one would have said that we really have no excuse that our IGF is low, because obviously you don't really need an expert to tell you that we have very huge revenue streams. Some are not really tapped. The few that are tapped, we have reports about, or let me call it allegations about revenue leakages and all that. So some of them are attributable to the fact that they have gained some acquaintance in the catchment areas that they literally would want to sacrifice the tax payments in the interest of friendship they have established. Oh, you are my friend. We are from the same area. Oh, okay, you are good to go. And kind of.
So are you saying that that's the attitude of some of the tax collectors?
Exactly, it's part of the.
It's part of the.
So in the last several weeks, the mayor is leading effort, our revenue generation effort, and by so doing, he started mobilizing the people. He started engaging the various areas, trying to get their input. Let them, sharing his vision with them, and they need to cooperate with them. Some of them are really voluntarily mentioning strategies to deal with the situation. And in fact, it's a happy thing to report on. Not quite long, he engaged management of, the leadership of the central market, their conscience. He presented the issues bare for them to know the challenges facing the area. You calling for development in the market and all that, yet what we realize that even if we decide to dedicate the money to the needs of the market, we may have to source funds somewhere to complement. What I'm trying to say is that generation is woefully inadequate against the needs of the market. So you may not even be able to break even situation. So the mayor really engaged the leadership, conscientizing them, and they themselves have admitted that no, something has to be done. Because you can imagine a store that goes for 100 cedis for a year. 100 cedis, just bare floor, bare ground like that. How much does it go for if you want to rent? Just nothing on it at all. So you pay 100 cedis for a year, dividing it by 12. How much are you paying for a month to occupy a store? it's not so reality of hard times. So they have agreed to do the upward review of some of those rates. So we're hoping that from next year onwards, we will experience a different situation altogether. Central market, Ababu, the grains dealer, the cereal dealers, 2 weeks ago, the management invited them for a discussion, same issues, and we really enjoyed their cooperation. They are willing and ready to support us to deliver. We engaged the Gunayile market, the cattle market. In fact, they really volunteered to increase the rates, among other things. So a lot of things are going to happen. We have also engaged the business community and not through the distant past. We met with the financial institutions, we met with the telecos, we met with other business entities, and then with them, the ones that they can that share in their values, their core values as corporate institutions. They will pick them and support. So all those wonderful plans are there receiving attention. So it's our hope that 2023 will be a year full of trails.
In wrapping up, has the Assembly have any plans to put containers under the bridge, the interchange? There were concerns and agitations quite recently about that. There were some reports that you wanted to place some containers at some places, displeasing other traders.
Not as I know. I'm not really in charge. I will remember to really give you all there is to know about that. So maybe soon after here, I will engage the officers in charge and for briefings. In fact, sometimes it has always been my approach. I do not pretend to know everything because Assembly operates under units and various unit heads and department heads. So if any issue comes up, it's your responsibility to identify the right person, invite the person for briefings. Then that way you can speak on authority to some of them. So I will note this for further engagement.
Mr. Mustafa, unfortunately, we are out of time. I want to take your concluding comments on that. Maybe some other time, if time is permitting, we will get to engage you further on the developments within the metropolis.
Yes.
Because there are other areas that we could not touch because time is of essence.
It's our responsibility to meet the development needs of our people. We are in hard times, we admit that. But we are also mindful of the gaps that exist, and we're also taking steps to remedy the situations. All we need is the situations. All we need is the cooperation of the people. They have not failed us so far, and we do not hope they will fail us going into the future. And would also give them the assurance that we'll never betray that trust. So they rely on the Assembly to meet the development needs of the area. So as we go into festive seasons that way, it is our hope and prayer that we'll conduct ourselves in ways that at least we will have ourselves in peace and not in pieces. Your lives are so precious.
Sir, you've been listening to Mr. Amadou Mustafa Zakari. He is the Director of Public Affairs at the Tamale Metropolitan Assembly, joining us this afternoon for a conversation on issues concerning the Tamale Metropolis. And this is where time and space will permit us this afternoon on issues on this. We are issues of today. We are returning on Friday to continue the conversation on this program. It's airborne Mondays at 2 p.m., Wednesdays at 2 p.m., and Fridays at 2 p.m. Make time with us on each of the days that we will come to serve you. Thank you to my team of producers who made sure that this is brought to you, the men at the camera, and of course